A lot of students think there's people out there who are just naturally good readers, like someone else might be a gifted artist or a talented basketball star. I just wasn't born that way, they'll say. And everyone else like me, they can do it and I wasn't cut out for it. But I don't believe that's true about reading. No one's born knowing how to read. Who you might think of as being good readers are just people who've learned to use tips and strategies to help them become more effective readers. People aren't born readers. So earlier, when I asked you to identify your frustrations and difficulties with reading, did you mention having trouble concentrating or understanding what you read or remembering what you've read? Okay, if so, in this lesson, you're going to learn a reading thinking strategy that's meant to help you concentrate, stay focused while you read, understand what you're reading, and then remember what you've read. It should take care of all of those. Now you're going to listen to the same students talking about how they felt after learning this strategy called thinking while you're reading for yourself.
Because I write down what I said, when I go back to read my notes or my comments, everything just comes back to me and it makes everything easier to remember. This strategy also helps a lot when I'm reading a story on a test. I usually go and read the question first, and then after I'm done reading the whole story, I stop after the last paragraph and I think really quickly about what I just read, and this also helps me focus on the questions that I just read.
This really helped me concentrate. When I have to comment or respond after I've just read something, it really makes me stay focused while I'm reading.
Now I just read a paragraph at a time and then write about what I just read. That way I don't get bored by trying to read the whole thing at once.
I like this strategy because it's about my ideas and what the story is really about, instead of that there's some kind of right answer I have to find. I like this way a lot better.
It is really easy to do, but it makes such a big difference.
So while it may seem like a really obvious thing to say, it's really important to be thinking about what the author is saying while you're reading. It's as though there's a conversation going on in your mind with the author while you're reading. Usually, effective readers are constantly thinking while they're reading. They're making guesses about what will happen next, or they're asking themselves questions about what is happening. They might be making connections by linking pieces of the story together with something that happened earlier, or they might be making connections to their own lives based on what they're reading, or creating opinions about the characters or the author. Nearly always, effective readers reread the story multiple times, stopping, flipping back to review something when they're confused, or lost. So, the idea of this strategy is to read a small section, then stop and make yourself comment on what you just read. It could be a question, a comment, a prediction, a connection, a confusion, a memory, anything you like. You might write that comment down in your book, or I like to write it on a sticky note. Then you go to the next section, read a little bit, and stop and make yourself do a comment again. You keep moving through your text, writing down your comments as you go. Here's some of the most typical sorts of responses people make while they're reading. Using the title and facts to make predictions about what you think is going to happen next or later. going back to notice a particular detail and think about why that detail is important. Asking questions. The question could be to the author, why did you choose to do this? Or it could be about a particular character or an action or a reaction someone had. Making connections. Using clues to help think about the characters or story. You might want to jot some of those down in your notes to help you remember what kinds of comments you want to be thinking about writing. Take a moment to read this section taken from The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. I'd like you to read this section and then stop, press the pause button, and write down a comment or comments on the text. When you're finished, you're going to listen to the student read it, and then you'll hear what her comments are. Then you can compare your comments with hers. Go ahead and read it now.
The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. We didn't always live on Mango Street. Before that, we lived on Loomis, on the 3rd floor. And before that, we lived on Keeler. Before Keeler, it was Paulina. And before that, I can't remember. But what I remember most is moving a lot. Each time it seemed there'd be one more of us. By the time we got to Mango Street, we were 6. Mama, Papa, Carlos, Kiki, my sister, Nenny, and me. So, The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros is the title of the story, and it's the title of the whole book, too. So what she says about this house must be really important. It also sounds like they moved a lot. I wonder why. I'm guessing they needed a bigger place, or maybe they were just renting. Let's see, they moved 1, 2, 3 times, and she says each time there'd be one more of us. There are how many kids? There's Carlos, Kiki, Kenny, and her. 4 kids. So she must be the oldest to remember all this moving. I wonder why this house is so special.
Did you hear how many comments she was able to make just on this very small section of text? It's only 6 sentences, but she used the title, she looked at a particular details, she asked questions, she made predictions. All of those are comments back to the text, thinking while you're reading. Did you write comments like that? Or did you write something very simple? You want to push yourself to think on all the different ways you can respond to the text. Write it on a Post-it, stick it on the text, and then go to the next section. Let's try it again. We're going to do another one from The House on Mango Street.